loses her cool. She prosecuted sex predators. He is one.
Grab him by the...
She's the attorney general who beat the biggest banks in America and forced them to pay homeowners $18 billion. He's tearing us apart. She'll bring us together. This is the anti-Trump. So if that's what you're looking for in your next president, there's really only one. Kamala.
Kaikene Fred Wanko Ezudo Eze Nwafosi Ajalebia Publisher African Lifestyle Magazine Chicago Nwafo Nde Chicago Chiejemba.
Hello everybody. Once again, this is Fred Wanko coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on Island TV. And as usual, I like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on where you are around the world. Through the last few months, a few insane Americans and Nigerians and Africans have been celebrating the fact that with President Biden not being in the greatest health, that America's liar-in-chief, nicknamed Donald Trump, was going to emerge the next president of America. Anybody who watches my show knew where I stood on that. A dead Joe Biden would have beaten that man, America's liar-in-chief. However, with Joe Biden being the honorable person he has always been all through his career, to make sure that no stone is left unturned, he decided to step down and immediately endorsed Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the Democratic Party for the President of the United States. And some immediately came out trying to compare Kamala Harris and Barack Obama. Barack Obama was great. Both are great people, great candidates, great this, that. But let's make no mistakes about it. Kamala Harris doesn't take a backseat to anybody, not to Barack Obama, and not to any person who would have wanted to run. I like Barack Obama. What can you take away from Barack Obama? But let's face facts. Kamala Harris was a better senator than Barack Obama. Barack Obama was a better orator than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris sponsored more bills in the Senate than Barack Obama. Doesn't make Barack Obama bad or anything. And Kamala Harris can stand her own as the presidential candidate, and she brings something to the table that even though Barack brought to the table, but people were skeptical. When Kamala comes out, there's not going to be a lot of skepticism. Kamala Harris doesn't come out looking threatening to bigoted white people because she's a woman. They are not scared of black women. They were scared of Obama, not because he did anything for them to be scared of him, but because he was a black man, or he's a black man. Kamala Harris brings the beauty of the fact that she's a woman. She's not a black woman, because that's taken away from her qualification. She's black, but she comes to this race as an all-American woman, not as a black woman. She brings credentials. She's not there on a quota system. She's articulate, she's intelligent, she's compassionate, but more importantly, she knows about the world and she knows about dealing with people better than Donald Trump can ever imagine. The race has just begun, folks. I want you to listen to these interviews I'm bringing you to see how women are going to come behind Kamala Harris, not to mention all the men who take American democracy seriously. This is gonna be some beautiful 4 or 5 months in America. And it'll be a lesson in democracy for the world. What do you think about the Republican ticket?
The Republican Party have chosen the most anti-woman ticket in modern history.
So what do you really mean by that? Could you explain it to the listening audience?
Between Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, we have a court-adjudicated rapist who was besties with a pedophile and sexually assaulted dozens of women when he wasn't calling them fat pigs and dogs. And we have a pandering, spineless, sociopathic VP who thinks women should stay in violent marriages and carry our rapist babies to term because 2 wrongs don't make a right.
So, from the way you sound, what should we expect from a Trump presidency?
Between these 2 men and their party of enablers, don't kid yourself, we're going to have a national abortion ban on day 1. Count on it.
Those are very strong words. But what are you going to do about it?
I'm not losing my rights and the rights of 50% of this nation to raise our children in a country run by psychopathic Christian nationalists who think their president is above the law and women should obey their husbands.
So what are the implications for our children?
I am not allowing our children to go into their draft or into their marriage beds or onto their factory floor. I am not willingly going into an America where Republican leaders talk about repealing the 19th Amendment and going back to a family vote.
So how safe are women in this possible Trump administration if we get to one?
Women are not safe in the Trump-Vance Project 2025 America, just like we're not safe alone in a room with Donald Trump himself.
So what's your advice for America's women?
The women of America need to get really serious really fast, or we're going to be living under the American Taliban before we know it.
Is that how you think most women really think? Most of them?
I don't think there is a single one of us that doesn't know a man or many men who wouldn't love it if we were legally forced to shut up.
What's your advice for women in America today, considering that Kamala Harris just became the Democratic candidate for the President of the United States?
Women of America don't have time for your cowardice. We need you to get your heads in the game before everything is taken from us. That is what matters now.
Now, that lady is not a Republican. But in the next interview, I'm going to bring you a Republican woman, and what she said about Donald Trump when she was running against Donald Trump. And while you are listening and saying, wow, I want you to just remember that that same woman I'm going to bring you next was at the podium at the Republican National Convention last week, singing the praises of the same devil she's going to tell us about in this next interview. Thank you, Miss Haley, for giving us the opportunity. Now, what do you think about Donald Trump and the fact that it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to be the one that emerges as the Republican candidate to run against the Democrats?
Trump is the nominee of the Republican Party, we will have a President Kamala Harris. That's just a fact.
So is that based on his incompetence or based on age, as you suggested in the past.
The party that gets rid of their 80-year-old candidate is the party that will win.
What do you think are the chances for a female president? Since you're a female, and if the Democrats get rid of their 80-year-old candidate, a female emerges in Kamala Harris.
There will be a female president of the United States. It will either be me or it will be Kamala Harris.
So in other words, Ms. Haley, you're ruling out Donald Trump completely.
There's no way that Donald Trump is going to win this election.
Are you indirectly saying there is going to be a female president?
You're going to have a female president of the United States.
So who is that going to be?
It's either going to be me or it's going to be Kamala Harris.
Aren't we thinking ahead of our times? Because right now it's Joe Biden on one side and likely Trump on the other side.
Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee. I would make any bets about that. The party that gets rid of their 80-year-old candidate.
Okay, Miss Haley, let's stop beating around the bush. What if Donald Trump emerges as the candidate for the Republican Party?
And if Donald Trump is the nominee, mark my words, we will see a President Kamala Harris.
Folks, the campaign has just started, and there is a method to my madness. What I'm trying to show is the kind of strong support that Kamala Harris is going to get from women. Add that to all the young people who said they are not going to vote for Biden because he's too old. Add that to all the young people who know that Trump is not only old, but stupid and irresponsible. And then add it to the disgruntled Republicans that are so upset that their party has gone to the dust. Those are Kamala Harris votes. So I'm going to conclude yet with another woman. And I'll be asking her what she remembers about Donald Trump, past or present. And this is not a Black woman. This is not a Hispanic woman. This is not a Chinese or Indian woman. This is not an Arab woman. This is a white woman. And here are the things she remembers about Donald Trump. So, ma'am, what do you remember about Donald Trump?
I remembered the assassination threats against Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and how 1 in 6 election officials have experienced threats because of their job, ranging from death threats that named officials young children to racist and gendered harassment by the right.
Okay, everybody, what else? What else do you remember?
I remembered MTG calling for the execution of Barack Obama, and Paul Gosar posting an animated video depicting him unaliving AOC.
Okay, I know we're bunching them all into one, but let's stick with Trump. What else do you remember?
I remembered Trump calling for people at his rallies to be harmed, and how he wanted to shoot protesters in the legs.
So of all the things Donald Trump has done, it's safe to say nothing good comes out of him. What would you say is the most disgusting thing he's done, especially related to American democracy?
I remembered January 6th and how all our lawmakers' lives were in grave danger and our Capitol Police were pummeled and traumatized for Trump's adrenaline rush of vengeance for a country that kicked him to the curb.
Trump is quick to want to lock people up. He just got indicted on 31 counts or 34 counts. What do you remember that makes such mockery of him telling people to be locked up?
I remembered lock her up and knock the crap out of them, and good people on both sides, and when the looting starts, the shooting starts, and stand back and stand by.
People always say that Republicans are hypocrites. They always talk about how crime is based on minorities and all that. What do you think about? What do you remember?
And I remembered that between 2013 and 2022, 75% of murders committed by extremists were caused by right-wing extremists, with only 4% caused by left-wing extremists.
this election may define the end of democracy the way we know it. And think about the gains that civil rights has made in America the last 60 years. And in this case, I'm addressing my fellow Africans, my fellow Nigerians, and their children or high-achieving children who were either born in America or came to America at a very young age. It's easy to get into your flow of achievement and forget where you came from. It's easy to get into your flow of achievement and start to think that you achieved everything you achieved because you're such a superstar, special talent, gifted child. And you forget that somebody laid the foundation that made it possible for you to be achieving those things in a highly prejudiced society where, yes, I'll say it bluntly as I always do, in a place where the white man hates you, hates your guts, thinks you're trying to take away from him what his lazy ass refuses to go and achieve. I see so many of our children talking about voting for Donald Trump. I see so many of our children when Biden was running saying they don't like that old man. Thank God that old man is such a responsible old man that he gave up his ego for the interest of you, me, and every minority out there. And for all the Nigerians who live in Nigeria, Africans who live in Africa, and in their infatuated world, they see this beautiful thing in Trump. I pray that your children, if not you, I pray that your children get visas, not JACMA, not coming illegally. I pray that your children get legal visas to come to America. And I can't wait for them to tell you the obstacles they face in America because of people like Donald Trump and their wickedness. All that glitters is not gold. Never mind the glitter you see in the falsehoods of Trump. When it's all said and done, Donald Trump is a very bad person. Any person who has studied Donald Trump and followed him knows that Donald Trump does not like black people. Donald Trump hates black people. Donald Trump almost had some black boys wasted in New York for an offense they didn't commit. Because if you left it to Donald Trump, get those niggers to the electric chair. To the electric chair for the crime they did not commit. I'm going to spend the next few months, not in every episode, but in many of the episodes, talking about this election coming up in America, working very hard to see that Kamala Harris is elected. And Kamala Harris is not being elected for black people. She's not being elected for women. She's a highly qualified candidate that America is blessed to be in a position to have her emerge as the person that replaces Joe Biden on that ticket. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Fred Nwankwo coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on Allen TV. And until next time, good night and God bless.
Onye mazolo bio akwa nwa zoro bio Max ibia bunye go kwanu mo no fube nazo kolaga Ulagani piazugo Mmanwu ulagadoni piazugo Agbanwe mwilochi yo biko rapuzo Kona bazia Odogu kenenu mikechofo Ama kwa mnika kugodia Waligwe kwelo Ikejo mabele bege Eku kampune kene Omogo ndi nso Chukwe mekalumo Ike chukwu negaje Esi nwanne mekene ni Ilapul ife nini na-eme wee bịa Ka gosili na anyị na gị bụ nwanne wisdom ga-adị Ka nye gị maịkị ka ogobanya bụ egwu Isili maxi ọ bụ na-etiri egwu a Malụkwa malụ n'imego m ife ọjọọ Wee sị gị nwanne m ife ọbụ na ịchọlụ na ngeme Wisdom onume kenege Bama iyo iyo biko lapo Nabasia Zoro 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 Deduru joy na bugwa osa Sokoto Ujembe mwilo Anu solo nwe nwe manofia nara Onye nwuru ozuru